We've seen it in, in democracy, as we said, where, for example, at one point they said, we want to go ahead and remove all the dictatorships and have democracies. And what ended up happening was there was murder of millions of people.
Absolutely.
And similarly with communism, when communism initially it came, it was it appeared to be a very noble thing where everybody's going to be equal and everybody would have the same rights. But what ended up happening, as we've seen, is there were the majority of people who were very poor, and there were some people who were very, very rich. Assalamu alaikum. How are you doing?
Good.
So last time we were discussing the principal challenge.
Yes.
Where God has given a challenge to anyone who has a doubt that Quran is the book of God.
Yes.
Or Islam is a true religion.
Yeah.
To come up with even a single chapter like the Quran.
Yeah.
And as we discussed last time, there are some chapters which are very big, but there are others which are very, very small, just 2 or 3 verses.
Yes.
And nobody has been able to fulfill this challenge so far. And interestingly, the next verse, Allah has clearly said that you will not be able to fulfill this challenge.
Yes.
And whoever is not able to fulfill this challenge should be ready to go to hellfire. Right? Now, apparently, this is a very strong verse.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that why will a disbeliever go to hell?
Yes.
Now, this is the question. The disbeliever that Quran is referring to, typically, as a kafir, is somebody who completely understands and sees the truth,
Yes.
but just denies it out of sheer arrogance.
Yes.
Okay, that is why that person is going to go into hellfire.
Yes. Right? I think there are several things we can notice about hellfire. The first thing is that it prevents you from going towards the wrong direction in this life. The very explicit and detailed description of hellfire, and says that it shows you the magnitude of the action that you're committing, how serious it is.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah.
No, I think that's a good point, because the point is, if believing in God is the fundamental starting point.
Yes.
Because if you don't believe in God, then you don't believe in any of the things that God has talked about, any of the values.
Yes.
So from there onwards, you're just on a free fall where you end up doing what you like, and that typically does not go in the right direction.
Yes.
Now, in terms of rewards and punishments, somebody could ask, why rewards and punishments?
Yes.
And I think an easy way to understand this is that, for a minute, let's suppose there are no rewards and punishments. Even in the absence of any rewards and punishments, there are consequences of actions.
Absolutely, yes.
Right? So, for example, if somebody just goes ahead and barges into somebody else's house, that is trespassing.
Yes.
Or if somebody goes and steals something, that is extremely counterproductive.
Yes.
So you cannot have a society where there's a free for all.
Yeah.
So for any society in the world, you need to have certain laws and regulations, which will ensure, the general well-being and the general safety and health of a society.
Absolutely.
Correct?
And if you remove the consequences or the rewards and the punishment, then you remove the difference between good action and bad action, and it becomes irrelevant which type of action you're taking.
Absolutely. And so if you wanted to improve any society, that is why historically there have been, there's always incentives for improvement. So, for example, if somebody studies really hard, he gets into a good university, and then if you do really well, you end up getting different kinds of prizes and medals and and decorations. So, and the same applies for sports. Yeah.
As historical human beings, I think we tend to reward achievement and hard work.
Yeah, I mean, it's just basic common sense, I mean, it's just common sense, even when you're raising kids, when the kids are small, and as you begin to raise them, and as
Yeah.
the kids grow, you want to sort of reward good behavior,
Yes.
and you want to at times caution them against bad behavior, because as the kids are growing up, they could end up hurting themselves, or
Absolutely. Yes.
so they need to understand what is good and what is bad,
Yep.
right? So rewards and punishments, or consequences of our actions are just baked into into life, into the
Yes.
human DNA.
Yes.
Okay, so there's nothing odd about it.
Yes.
But now, if we compare the concept of heaven and hell
Yeah.
to the concept of rewards and punishments in this world, is a very interesting comparison.
Yeah.
Okay, laws are not an answer to everything, right? So there can be situations where somebody could be perfectly within the law,
Yeah.
but somebody is still doing stuff which is very harmful to other people.
Yes.
Okay, so for example, if somebody is not good with his neighbor, or with his colleagues or peers, or if somebody's ends up making fun of somebody else,
Yes.
if somebody is being sarcastic,
Yes.
so you may not be breaking the law,
Yes.
but you could still be causing a lot of harm and grief.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. I think you touched on something very, very interesting. Because by laws we can govern only a certain amount of actions that people are doing, but these actions that you're referring to cannot be punishable because they're so minor. And I think the only thing that is addressing these issues or these values is religion, is Islam.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and so this masquerading of staying within the law,
Yes.
but going towards something which is bad, is something that we've seen across the ages.
Yes, absolutely.
We've seen it in democracy, as we said, where for example, at one point they said, we want to go ahead and remove all the dictatorships and have democracies, and what ended up happening was there was murder of millions of people.
Absolutely.
And similarly with communism, when communism initially it came, it was it appeared to be a very noble thing where everybody's going to be equal and everybody would have the same rights. But what ended up happening, as we've seen, is there were the majority of people who were very poor,
Yeah.
and there were some people who were very, very rich,
Yeah.
and so that is why there is a requirement to have not just to have laws, but
Yes.
essentially to have a system or a framework where there's a lot of self-evaluation that happens at an individual level. If we go back to Islam, we see that Islam is comprised of two things. It is comprised of belief
Yes.
and of good actions.
Yes.
Now, the belief is something which is in the heart.
Yes.
Anybody can say, can claim anything,
Yes.
but how much somebody really believes is a matter of the heart.
Absolutely.
And as people, it's impossible for us to look inside anybody's heart.
Yes.
We can guess and we can speculate and we can probably judge to some extent based on how people act.
Yes.
But what is truly inside the heart is impossible for human beings to know.
Absolutely.
And we don't need to know it. But obviously God, or Allah, looks inside the heart and He knows what's inside the heart. And that is why there's a very interesting hadith which says, Allah does not look at your appearance, at your faces or your appearance, outward appearance, and He does not look at your wealth, right? But He looks, at your heart, and He looks at your actions,
Okay.
right?